Yay, hi. Okay, good. Now, don't get used to this because you're going to see my only attempted animation of anything. And I do thank you for being here. I need to be talking louder. I'm talking louder. Excuse the scream thing. But anyway, this is an osteoporosis workshop, okay? And I'm hoping you're glad to be here. I put this in here because I'm particularly generalizing here, but guys actually act this way. When they take care of their health, don't do anything about it and I'll be fine. So they're symptom oriented tremendously. I was looking at statistics and I noticed that by the age of 80 there's 4 more women than there are guys. So I don't think we take care of ourselves very well. I don't know who I was telling a cute story, but Jeannie's grandma was like 92 years old and she had a condo down in West Palm Beach. And it was mostly women, and the guys, they were really a commodity. You know what they wanted the most out of the guys they were going out with? They wanted to drive at night. They thought that was a big deal. And talk about catty and bitty. Boy, if there was a guy there that had money and he was cute, forget it. I mean, they would cut their throats of the other girls. It was fun. It was really eye-awakening to me because I didn't think that would happen. So the whole intention, I have 10 seminars already set up, but the idea is to take charge of your health. And the intention is, I want you guys to be your own doctors. And really, I just want to bounce ideas off each other so you have the capability of knowing what choices you need to make. Okay? So that's what I want to accomplish. And it's so much easier for both of us. So really, to accomplish this, we just have to go through the basic ideas of health. What I've noticed is that over time, the patients that I've had for a long time, and fortunately I have a lot of them for a long time, they develop an understanding based on the experiences they've been through with different health crises they've had. And they learn more and more about what their health is. And they also learn more and more about what they've been told and what has nothing to do with their health. It has a lot to do with tolerating the problem, not solving the problem. My favorite is the center one here. Well, yeah, I think you got an arrow through your head. But we'll run some tests anyway. I love that one. And the one on the left, it's what's happening. If you notice, there's apps that are being made now for you can evaluate the quality of the blood going through your heart. It's amazing. It's amazing. And I put that one on the right just for fun, because it seems like the pharmaceutical industries are an economic, $22 trillion they made last year. I just can't even imagine that. And I also see what I did there, isn't that cool? You cannot be sick and healthy simultaneously. It's what's a foundational principle in Chinese medicine. And if you think about the brilliance of that, and they really were, it's a simple statement, which is also what they do is brilliantly, but you can't be both at the same time, so you might as well be healthy. Make sense? I'm kind of fond of what Einstein has to say, and I was shocked that I found this in what he said. Energy is everything. That's all there is to it. Match the frequency of the reality you want, and you cannot help but get that reality. It can be no other way. This is not philosophy, it's physics. Isn't that cool? That's what this is. I mean, if you look at what I do, muscle testing, acupuncture points, it's all physics. Homeopathy is really physics. But I never realized how much I was interested in energy medicine until I found that everything I was doing was energy medicine. And I want you to know that it's unique here, but I had a patient who came from Austria, and I looked at her consultation form and it said, last doctor, and she said the head of energy medicine at the University of either Vienna or Austria. And I went, God, we need some of those guys here. So they exist, they just don't exist here. Now, the concept of the topic of this workshop is osteoporosis. And I handle this a little bit differently. I want to go through the basic function of what a bone does, because I think that people from the surveys I've done, they think once you got osteoporosis, you're done, because there's really nothing you can do about it, because it really happens when you get old. Okay, so what I did this This is actually a representation of the osteoporosis in our society. We did 600,000 knee replacements each year, all right? And they say that 4.7 artificial knees happening. So I added it up. If you take 49,000, which is what they cost for a knee these days, and you multiplied it by 4.7, it's 230 billion, $300 million. Now I also figured that out for fun. That means I could take care of every person on earth for their whole lifetime. That's just knee replacements. Isn't that amazing? I think it's amazing. And then hip replacements aren't as much. That's only 186 million. So we could get the population of the earth for about 20 years, okay? So now we're going to talk about bones, okay? Now there's two types of bones. There's cortical bone, that's the hard outside bone. And what most people don't really realize, but they kind of realize it, we have a spongy bone on the inside, and it's called bone marrow, and there's two different kinds of it. So the first point I'm trying to make here is bones are dynamic, they're living tissue. There's inorganic matter in them, but that's not all of them. Okay? And I decided he was the bone. So you can see the 70% of bone and all the nutrients right there are inorganic. And they talk, you know, calcium in bones, right? But it's not nearly as important as you think. And here's the bone cells, which I thought was interesting to write. And a bone cell, they call them osteogenic cells. And you see what it says next to it? It says stem cell. There's a lot of that going on now, guys. Okay? It's revolutionary. Interestingly, there was a lot of moral complications to actually dealing with stem cells. But now they found, you know what cell in the body has more stem cells than any other? Fat cells. Isn't that wild? So let me tell you what they're doing in the Bahamas now. You go down there to get a stem cell put in your body, they give you a liposuction, get your hips doing really pretty, and then they take them out, spin them, and put the stem cells in someplace else. So you get two things done. I think it's great, and there's a reason for it, so I like it. We're just going to skim this, but an osteocyte is a bone cell a bone cell. And an osteoblast is a cell that builds the bone. And an osteoclast is the one that cuts. The way I remember it, B, build, C, cut. Okay, but they'll be very important as we continue to go on. And then you can see the osteoblast there, okay? And the osteoclast old cell. I just like that picture, so I wrote him again. Isn't he great? This is the osteoclast. He's a guy who eats dead bone. Now here's what bone marrow looks like. There's red bone marrow, and that's white blood cells are actually made from the bone marrow. This is becoming more and more of a problem. I don't know if you know anybody that's had leukemia or Hodgkin's or things like that, but the bone marrow gets really adversely affected. And again, you can see stem cells down there and platelets. And up top we talk about lymphocytes, which are part of the white blood cells. So if your bones weren't doing their job, you wouldn't have an immune system. I bet you didn't kind of correlate that one. And then here's yellow. Okay, and it talks about in severe cases, when you're hunger or bone loss, okay? And then the red bones just for all the time, okay? Now, the protein is another part of the bone. I'm not sure that people know that. But it's a matrix, just like, you know, matrices. Mm-hmm. It actually is kind of whoop and warp. It's kind of like cross little sections. And a lot of things sit in between it that create strength for the bone. But a lot of times it's protein, and the protein is mostly collagen. Now, you'll see this. The only reason I added this is because if you go to a health food store or, God forbid, Walmart or something, most of the calcium has that word on it. Hydroxyapatite, and basically it's just an inorganic bone, and that's really what's in it. I'm only doing this to orient you to what we're actually looking at and what the heck is that big word and why is it on the bottle. Now, we also may not have known that there's organic components to bone. This is what I really want to stress because of the fact that I want you to get the idea that it's dynamic. Okay? That if it's 3.5, what they say on the DEXA scans, there's something you can do. And it says that collagen makes up 30%. Okay? Now, I did this because I found it fascinating that we have two contrasting points of view. Nothing you can do about osteoporosis because the bone's dead, and bones heal. When you break your bone, it heals. So how can both of those be true? They're contradictory to each other. That make sense? So now we're looking.
I've never heard that the bone is dead.
Yeah. Guess what? How does it heal? How do you get it?
I've never heard anybody say that.
Oh, okay.
No,
Yeah.
I've never heard that.
It's a common one.
Okay.
I'm glad you didn't hear it. So I wrote down the phases of bone healing. And the first thing that happens, you get a bunch of blood there. Then it takes the blood and puts calcium around it and heals up like a callus, which you see right there. You have to read that cartoon. I just loved it. I'm sorry, I just have to do this to myself. And then repair takes 6 to 8 weeks in the upper body and 12 to 16 weeks in the lower. I wanted to add this is one of the fortunate things that we experience is when people break a bone, we usually get to see them because the concept becomes, hey, I better have everything in here that I'm supposed to if I'm making a bone. And characteristically, when people do that, they heal in half the time that they expect them to, which I think it's a testimony, you know, and people love it. God, my orthopedist was shocked. And I said, yes, I'm glad he was. Tell him why. Okay, now there's the stages of bone healing. Now this next picture is actually a video. The coolest I've ever seen animation of how a bone heals. I hope you think it's cool, because I sure do. That's pretty much it. So now I'll give you a little data on bones. I added this in here as I was looking through anatomy books, the names of different parts of the bones. I got a kick out of this. A coracoid process, you see the little red dot on the top there, on the scapula? That's supposed to, coracoid means bird's beak. Now look at that for as long as you like, and if you can see a bird's beak, I'll be really impressed. The talus is the center, that's a bone in your foot. If you remember, like medieval times, they had talisman, which you used to rub for luck. So they think you're supposed to rub your ankle for luck. And the bottom here is a punticulus posticus, which in Latin it means preacher's hat. Now that little arrow that I put there, does that look like a preacher's hat to you? We had to memorize all this stuff, and I didn't quite understand it. So maybe you have to have a good imagination to be an anatomist. But bones are living tissue, they have blood vessels. Okay, we need proteins, minerals, and vitamins to make them up. Most of the time I've never heard of people being recommended anything but calcium. 1,200 milligrams of Oscal. That's usually the, and now they're doing vitamin D in an abnormal amounts of quantity. But the calcium that they expect you to take is calcium carbonate, which is not assimilable by ions. And here's, I have to, this is one of the most annoying things I know. Antioxidants like, what's that stuff? Tums. It decreases the acid in the stomach, and they use a calcium your body can't absorb. I don't know how they get away with that. But this is what your bone system is supposed to do. That's form, support, and stability. That's huge. And there's 7 different types of tissue in the bones. And they all work together. And bones are organs. I didn't really realize that either. And here's an interesting part. Most people don't recognize this, and I think this is probably why osteoporosis is much more prevalent in women, because there's a profound hormonal effect. And the endocrinological books that I read say it's estrogen, which is the main one. I don't think it is. But there's where they are. Okay, and that's what bones are made of. Calcium and phosphorus. And we get too much phosphorus because we drink soda, or some people do. Then we get calcium deposits and kidney stones, etc. This is kind of an interesting one. This is kind of like how to keep your body healthy. You know, how to take charge of your health. I want you to keep your bones healthy. And they talk about the process. This is something I'm going to take a little bit of time to do. I want you to recognize it's just not a matter of putting the calcium in you, but you got to eat the right calcium. And certain foods must not be eaten. If you were going to guess on what food I would say would be the one you shouldn't eat the most.
Sugar.
I see it. Amazing, huh? And it actually demineralizes the body. I'm getting a reputation here. The nutrients have to be broken down in the stomach, and if there's not acid, not broken down. Right? So you have to put more acid in the stomach. If you have an irritated stomach, you don't put acid in it because it hurts, and you take stuff not to have acid in your stomach, then you'll definitely have osteoporosis. It's Nexium and stuff, right? And leaky guts, that means that the stuff is leaking out of your intestine. You're not going to get anything to digest. And then the nutrients have to be transferred from the blood into the tissue. There's nutrition for that. Okay, so there's 6 steps right there, guys. And it didn't say anything about calcium. This is my favorite one. These are the kind of things that I'd like you to look at, okay? There is a familial possibility. And the only thing I care about familially is in the fact that you have to check more often than how you're doing. I'm not a real geneticist fan that, you know, your dad had it, so you got it. I think it's harder to get vitamin D. Boosting the bone density is exercise. Caffeine actually pulls calcium out of your body about 150 milligrams every time you drink a cup of coffee. Decreased alcohol consumption. One of the things I've noticed, I have more than several patients who are alcoholics, and what I've noticed in all of them is their lumbar spine has severe osteoporosis. I don't know what the relationship, but I've never seen that much osteoporosis change in anybody else. So you got to change your diet. I mean, like everything else, what you put in is what you get out. Okay? So see, there's written, we decrease excess refined sugar. I just had to say it. Okay? It's a cause of osteoporosis. People may not realize the fact that they actually have calcium in things like kale and sardines and broccoli and watercress and bok choy and carrots, interestingly enough. So here we talk about osteoporosis now. Many think that, many except Nancy, think that the bones are dead. So I really like this. This is another quote from Einstein. He said, imagination is more important than knowledge. He also has another one. He says, the ultimate source of research is play. Isn't that great? I love that. And Montessori is big into that. The bone turnover is pretty high. Most people don't think that's. It's 5 to 7% in a week. So there's some chance that you can actually fix them. Now, I surveyed the most common reasons of why women are concerned about their health. What are they concerned about most? The first one is breast cancer. The second one is what's called the dowager's hump. That's that one over on the third on the right. Women just don't want to be bent over. And that's just this survey, okay? There's what osteoporosis looks like. Okay, you can see where the arrow is. There's a break right there. And it says decreasing. Now, this is what they do for it. Now, the question I would have is if in fact you're osteoporotic and you're putting that metal in you to actually support it, what about the tissue that is being drilled into? You think that's any better? So my experience has been this complicates the problem because you're weakening the bones because you're putting holes in them. So short term it'll be a problem, but if anybody wants to solve osteoporosis by surgery, I don't think it's an option. And there's another one, okay? Interesting, who are most affected would be people that are white, thin, menopausal, smoking, drinking, and have a family history of it. Now I thought it was interesting to the right, how many times have you been told, oh my God, he fell down and broke his hip? That's not what happens. They break their hip and then they fell down. Okay, and that's osteoporotic most of the time. That look familiar to you, Bart?
No.
Okay, there's a fracture. That's what makes you bend over. You can see that one vertebra in the center there that's smaller, you know, from top to bottom. It's actually crushing. And amazingly, I've seen women with 10 or 12 of those in their back. There's another little unique surgery where we're stabilizing it. And does that look like a hardware store to you?
Mm-hmm. Screws.
Yeah, geez, it's scary. Okay, and obviously to decrease the severity, you got to eat well, exercise. I didn't put drink water here, but you should. Now, interestingly enough, people think that if they were weight-bearing exercises increase the calcium. That's only based on the fact that when you exercise, the muscles get bigger, so they think the bones would. They don't have any really clinical studies of that. But what they do have clinical studies of is stretching. So people who stretch have usually greater bone density. Isn't that interesting? Okay. And the behavior, when you're young, may be an important factor. There's further research says by the time you're 0 to 12, you've already decided what your bones are going to be like for the rest of your life. So let's just see those poor little obese kids at 6 years old that have been eating sugar for the whole time. Now, I added this just for fun. There's conventional treatments for osteoporosis. Now, I am really just putting this out to you because it's what I've researched and see. You tell me what you think. When I was at a seminar about osteoporosis, the gentleman sitting next to me, when we were talking about the medication that you can use for osteoporosis, was elbowing me in the side, going, you know what that is? You know what that is? And he just kept doing it. So I finally just looked at him and said, I need to hear what he said. So, of course, you know what happened at break time. I mean, he attacked me, right?
In your ear.
And it just so happened he was a compounding pharmacist. So after I heard that, I listened to him. He said, that stuff is laundry detergent. I said, oh, come on, you know? And so I looked it up when I got home, and sure enough, it was a biphosphate, which is what they are, okay? The revenue for that drug is $48 million a year. So the bones are constantly overturning, okay? They're constantly getting bigger and getting smaller, okay? And biphosphates inhibit the digestion of bone. That means the osteoclast that kills them. So you remember the osteoclast build a bone. Now the osteoclast eats the bone. Well, if we kill the guy that eats the dead bone, it's going to look on an x-ray like there's more bone. I swear, that's what gets done. So I looked around and researched it, and I found
After
this.
a flood of responses from you because of our World News investigation last night on medicines to fight osteoporosis and bones that break. Dr. Richard Besser told us about reports that over time, Fosamax and its generic form may actually cause bones to weaken in some women, and he's here again tonight. Rich?
Yeah, Fosamax is a very important drug. It's important to remember that it's very valuable for preventing hip fractures in some women. However, for some women who've been on the drug for many years, it can be a different story, and that's what we heard today from our viewers.
In the subway, and the train jolted, and I felt a big crack, and I fell down to the ground.
She's a doctor and was on Fosamax for 7 years. She now runs a support group for users who've broken their femurs.
As of today, we have 32 members, of whom one is a man. And the amazing thing is that something like a third of this group have had fractures in both femurs.
The femur is one of the strongest bones in the body, but for some, it snapped easily.
I walked into my husband's bedroom and my leg just broke. I just went down.
Late today, the FDA agreed to an interview.
Here we are in 2010. We're hearing about many, many more patients who've had this problem. Is it time now to send out a notice to physicians to be on the lookout for this?
Right now, the agency does not feel a warning on this is justified, but we are continually reevaluating that as we get more information.
Given that doctors are telling us they had no idea that these fractures could be related to the drug, doesn't it make sense to send something to doctors to say, if your patients are having fractures, let us know. We don't know it's related, but we are taking this seriously and we want to look at this.
There's a lot of concern that people have. There are patients who clearly feel that the medicine may be a cause of their problem, and that's something that we've got to look into very seriously.
We received a statement from Merck again today, in which they reiterated their concern for patient safety. Diane?
You surprised that the FDA won't send word out of some kind?
I am. I think their threshold is too high. I think to send a letter to doctors would show that they take this seriously and would allow them to get the data they need to make a decision.
In the meantime, you will keep spreading the word. This question is out there, and again, we want you to write us, tell us your experience, that of your friends, and if you want to see more of Rich Besser's reporting on these drugs or have a question about them, go to our website, abcnews.com.
And I did. I went to the website. Boy, some of the stories are just amazing. So just in review, there's osteoblast to build bone and there's osteoclast to kill it, or actually to eat the dead bone. The question I raise is dead bone and live bone as strong as each other? I mean, it seems like the forest and the trees to me. And I couldn't find a credible study that said, the only thing I could find was when you looked at the x-ray, you saw denser bone. Well, that's dead bone you're looking at. So I don't know if it actually works better. Think about it, because there's going to people, I know you know 20 people right now that are on it. And Sally Fields made it, she 10x'd their utilization by, well, don't take it every day, just take a shot every year. Boniva.
Boniva, yeah.
Yeah, everybody knows it. So, I hate to tell you this, but I hear this, is coffee good for me? Well, every time you drink an 8-ounce cup, you lose 150 milligrams of calcium.
But that's just caffeine, right? What about decaf?
Decaf.
There you go, you use less. Okay? But chemically decaffeinated coffee is not the answer. Just read the next line.
I didn't look.
Although it's not as harmful, there's a detoxification effect. And what happens is to detox coffee, or to decaffeinate the coffee, they use sulfuric acid. I don't think that's good for you. It even sounds bad. If you get water processed decaf, it's 4 times more expensive, but it'll work, okay? So they recommend that you take 150 milligrams of calcium when you drink the coffee. That seems silly to me.
What did the last part say? You skipped over tea.
Which one?
Tea.
Decaf tea.
Read what you're...
Decaf tea is better than
Yeah, I'm
decaf
sorry,
coffee,
decaf
so
tea is better.
what
yeah.
you're getting at.
It certainly is.
And herbal would be better than that.
Yeah, there's certain herbal teas depending on you. Like chamomile tea, if anybody has constipation or liver problems, is not good for them. Red clover is not so good for them either.
You need to make a list of these. I have all kinds of teas in my cupboard.
I have lists of everything everywhere.
Well, where is it? Because if I'm not supposed to have a
You
certain
just
one.
asked me for it, I'll be happy to give it to you.
Okay. 'Cause I didn't know there was
Peppermint
something
teas,
like
any
that.
mint teas are really excellent for digestion. They're really excellent. Okay, that's a little part of the list, okay? Good. Now, okay, so you get to write down the calcium. There we're talking about antacids again, okay? Calcium needs to be taken on an empty stomach. That depends on the calcium. Standard processed calcium is food, so you're better. I don't care when you take it. I'm just happy you do. The 1,000 to 1,200 milligrams is what they say for the Osteoporosis Foundation, but I don't know where they get that from. Who is that? Is that a 150-pound 25-year-old, or is that a 400-pound 60-year-old? Who is that? So there you go, guys. I enjoyed putting this together. Look at the difference, the relationship. I just had a gentleman come in. He drinks 1 cup of coffee a day. How much sugar does he put in his coffee? Go ahead, think outrageous here.
6.
20 teaspoons.
20.
20.
How big is his cup?
I said, do you not like coffee or what? 20.
Wow.
They'd be sick. Hi,
Maybe it's this big.
it's on.
Better be.
Showtime. Push escape. I couldn't get this thing to actually run. Double click. No. Okay, excuse me a second. What'd you do there? Stop it. You're messing things up. Move. Thank you. Move. This is my attempt at YouTube. This will be on YouTube now. Turn the sound up, please.
So many people say.
There you go. You're missing all my great words.
Right now, that is absolutely correct. There are so many adverse factors that go on because of the fact that people consume too much sugar. It's actually astronomical. There was a study I just read that said by 2015, epidemiologists have said that the whole country is going to be diabetic type 2. That's because of what we eat. There are many studies that talk about the relationship between ADHD and sugar. There are many studies that talk about numbness called neuropathy in your legs and hands from sugar. So the concentration of sugar is the problem. Obviously you need blood sugar, glucose, but getting it in foods that aren't so wonderful for you, they take 12 teaspoons of sugar in 12 ounces, that's really not okay for you. So, can you stop eating sugar? Yes. Is it hard to do? Yes. There's a reason why it is hard to do. It's addictive. It's very addictive. Some people will say that sugar is poison. I can't find many reasons why that's not correct. But again, it's the concentration. We'll be happy to talk to you about it and help you along the way. It's one of the most vital things that you can do for your health. So stop eating sugar.
There you go. Thank you. Come on. There you go. Okay. What is necessary to know that bones are healthy? One of the factors that I thought of here was, okay, what's out there? What can we do to evaluate what's going on with the bones? And the difficulty is that most people, when they have problems with osteoporosis, know it when they break a bone. That's usually at 65 or 70. It's kind of late, okay? So what I did was I looked at the technologies I use in the office and see if any of them are helpful. So, don't know where you were going, it's hard to get there, okay? So you got to know. Now, the most common test used in gynecological offices are a DEXA scan. I don't know if you've had them, but they've recently increased the technology and decreased the radiation. Now we're at 1/10 the radiation of a chest X-ray. And it was concerning me that people were having these done and using so much radiation, but they're now valuable tools to be able to determine what's going on with the bones. Now here's a fracture. You see the whites in there? People used to use an X-ray to be able to determine that, but 33% of the bone has to be affected before you notice it being a problem. That's too late. So you can't X-ray and determine it. Now these are the tests for the blood tests for osteoporosis. Okay, a parathyroid, which we rarely ever hear, and you'll never see blood work about it. There's a hormone that actually produces calcium. It's a unique organ or gland because it's the only one that's responsible for a mineral, which is calcium. And the CBC is just good for everything, okay? And here's the hormones that affect bone, okay? How to eat yourself into unhealthy bones. Okay, there you are, right? That'll do it. The picture on your left is live food, and the picture on your left is dead, on your right is dead food. My definition is, if you eat live food, you make a live body. If you eat dead food, you make a less of a live body. Does that make sense? There's no ability to break it down and regenerate or create anything. I saw a hamburger that was, the bun was a Krispy Kreme donut. And it had 4 different types of cheese, and what did they do with it then?
Fried it.
They fried it. I didn't eat one. I looked at it. It looked like a gelatinous mass of disgusting. Soda and caffeine are a problem. Okay. Coke does not add life. That one annoyed me a lot. Now, alternatives. This is an important area because I don't know, besides of Fosamax, that anything's out there to actually help improve the bone or recreate it. So what I did was I wrote these down. What I do, which I really never promote a name of it, is called nutritional response testing. It's an energetic medicine technique. And I want you to notice that I didn't recognize it, but in their technology is not tests or energetic tests for osteoporosis at all. For calcium some, and once somebody actually says that they have osteoporosis, there's things to check for. But this will only work if I've got a DEXA scan. So I'll tell you what, you're 45 years old, you're a lady, guess what I'm going to do? Hi, get your DEXA scan. So much so, I'm actually, I'll tell you this. The medical board about 5 years ago came out with the directive. They said that chiropractors are to be held to the same standard of diagnosis that they are. Okay? And then within the same mouth, they came out with what tests we weren't allowed to order. Does it seem contradictory to me? Well, somebody must have had a kid who was a lawyer, because he said, hey, listen, listen, you can't hold us to this standard and not let us have the test that you use to determine the standard. So they shot themselves in the foot. So I should be able to get DEXA scans done for you guys. I don't know
think
what.
they offer free bone scans at Costco.
But they're cheapy ones. They just put
Yeah,
your
I'm
finger
sure.
in the.
It's probably your wrist. Or
Yeah,
your finger
wrist
or
or
something,
bone,
but-
finger.
But
I don't
it's a
think.
place to start if somebody can't
I
afford
agree
the
with
other.
you. But yeah, that's truism. But it's one of those tests you know if you got it, but you won't know if you don't.
If you
Okay.
already have it, is it still beneficial to get it occasionally?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, oh, definitely. Definitely. Now, another interesting technology that I read a book. It was called The Plant Paradox. I read it about a year ago, and one of those annoying little statements, the gentleman, his name was Gundry, he said, you know, when you have a nutritional practice, you give people good nutrition and nutritional supplements, and they break down into individual parts, then what parts of the body needs them will assimilate it, and you'll actually help to regenerate your body. Or it'll break down into elemental parts, and if the body's toxic, it'll use those elemental parts to make the toxins less of an adverse effect. But it won't do both at the same time. And I went, great, I'm spinning my wheels here. So what I did was I started working on an evaluative process for detoxification, and we've done it for about 6 months now. This program is somewhat brilliant. The prep phase means preparatory, and I couldn't find one detoxification program that prepped people. And considering they're detoxing them, I thought it was a good idea to prep them. Then the cellular phase or body phase is actually where they go into the cell. I had to go back and I did my high school biology when we're talking about the parts of the cell. What a different time that I was looking at it now than when I looked at it when I was 16. Then the brain phase, I don't think I've seen it anywhere, where they're actually intended to give you nutrition that crosses the blood-brain barrier to help to detoxify the brain. One thing I say about this is I live in Woodstock, so I go down 92 on my way home, and they're building everywhere, all right? And mostly, at least 85% of the buildings are assisted living and memory care centers. Now, I talked to a gentleman just today, and he lives in Alpharetta. He said, yeah, the same thing's happening here. So the bottom line is somebody is dealing with this. I've done this whole program. I tried to do it twice. My body didn't like that idea. So not yet, maybe 6 months from now. And the cellular vitality is prophylactic nutrition. Listen, you went through this program to get rid of the toxins, this will help. So it's a lot of antioxidants, etc. Okay?
Is the,
So-
the cellular a new one? I don't remember seeing that one before.
Yep, it just came out. Yep. Now, some of you have experienced this thing. It's called the Beamer. It's because we're getting into energy medicine in this world. The Beamer's intention is to actually create energetic frequencies that are supportive of the body. It's brilliant. I've been working with it for about 2 months now, and it's exceeding the expectations I have as far as one's health. My own personal experience, I sleep better, much. You probably know this is the ionic foot bath. This is one of those things where I say to myself, God, I wish I would have thought of that. Because the problem I had was I had a gentleman from, where the heck was he from? Douglasville. He was a machinist. And he came to see me, and he had emphysema. He also smoked 2 packs of cigarettes a day. And being a machinist doesn't mean you're around wonderful chemicals all the time. So when I tried to give him nutrition, his blood pressure almost doubled. And I go, what the heck is that? And then I realized it was the concept that I said. It was a toxicity. So I didn't have one of these at the time, and I was bummed out. It was Easter Sunday, about 10 years ago. And I woke up at 2 o'clock in the morning, and I had seen this at one of the conventions I was at. And I go, I need one of those. So I called him at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I said, hi, I have a friend of mine that has one of these in North Georgia. I'm going to pick it up. And then you be at my office at 2 o'clock. He thought it was totally nuts. But so did the person I got up at 8 o'clock in the morning to borrow it.
Of course.
But it's brilliant, and the technology is to be able to use hydrogen ions and put them into your body so they go look for the toxins and they attach to them. Then you switch the polarity like a magnet, and it comes out your feet. And it doesn't affect the detoxification organ, so it doesn't stress you. I like it. I should tell you my one story about it. You'll like this, Kathy. I had a patient I love, and her dog got bit by a snake, copperhead. She calls me up on the phone frantic. I go, Karen, I don't know anything about snake bites, nothing. She goes, okay, I'll take him to the vet, and then I'm coming to see you. So she brings him in, and we look at him, and I go, I wonder. I said, okay, go over to Publix and buy yourself a big plastic.
And her face was like this.
Yeah, easy. Easy. Go buy a box or a big plastic bin so we can put the dog in it. I'll put him on the foot bath. What the hell, right? So we put him on it. Within 5 minutes, the office smelled. Oh my God, it was terrible, the smell that came out of here. I didn't think I was going to be able to get rid of it. So after that period of time, I went, you can't talk me out of anything great about this thing. And the next day they said, you can expect the tissue on the side of your face to be totally gone. They call it necrotic, like dead. Nothing. Anyway, fun.
Did she go back and tell her vet?
Yes, she did.
Oh, of course you did. Yeah. Okay. I got a whole bunch of stories about her and the dog.
I bet the vet bought one of those.
Oh God. Well, I don't know what you're doing, but you should keep doing it. Here's the question that I'd like. What the hell did you do? Right? I mean, you know. Meridian stress analysis, you guys have never seen this, I don't think. But when you hear me say, can I have a hair and saliva sample? This is why I'm doing it. That instrument is homeopathic. It deals strictly with energy. It's brilliant. It's way ahead of its time. Its technology, the inspiration of it is a tricorder from Star Trek.
Yeah.
It's all about energy. And the guy who made it, that's what he told me. His name was Galloway. And I said, how close are you? He said, and he had a ring on. And he said, see my ring? It'll do it. Get near a machine and it'll pick it up. He goes, give me 5 years, I'll have a tricorder. Cool. So it's happening. One of the things that's happening is that the people that actually make money off of medical stuff are recognizing that nutrition is where we're going to go. And now it's energy medicine. So they're making money out of it. They're going to put money into research. And some of it is really good. Amazing. I love this one.
Hi, Cameron. How are you? What are you doing? I'm taking this up. You are? Mm-hmm. How come? Because it has toxins in it. Really? Your feet have toxins in it, huh? Yeah. You probably tell me or what? Where do we get toxins? In your body. Where do they come from? Well, the fruit and vegetables are not they're toxic and they're not organic. They're toxins. Oh.
Isn't it precious? I know that woman. You see it now. This is about a hair analysis. And what it does, it actually evaluates the minerals in your body. And the most important thing about the minerals that are excreted in your hair are the ratios. This is a word of caution. I do not think it is helpful, viable, or safe to take one mineral large doses. And you see the three where they're just about off the scale? You see them, the big lines there? These guys? See?
Where are they?
Guess what?
Wow.
They took lots of those minerals, and she was having, believe it or not, nausea severely. So when I looked at that, I said, anything you want to tell me? And then she brought them in. Okay. On the bottom right, that's heavy metals, toxic mercury, lead, etc. So it's a way of evaluating. I have a quantitative analysis from this. This is one of the hardest technologies to learn because it's based on a periodic table. You remember that damn thing when we were kids? Well, that's what it's based on, so you have to be a chemist to do this. But we find it very valuable. And I've done this long enough that the analysis I can get done, because I don't need their evaluation, is a third as much money as it usually would be. Because they give you this program, cookbook, these are this way, and I didn't find them useful anyway. Okay, so we're in a pretty good position to help here, because what the intention of what we do is to help recreate tissue. So getting there could be a little bit more difficult, but we'll go through the steps. And we have now developed an osteoporosis evaluation. A DEXA scan is part of it. There's a saliva test where they've actually found a marker chemical that if this chemical is coming out of your body, so is calcium. I am fortunate, this is just damn lucky, but I was at a seminar and the gentleman who developed this test for diagnostic was sitting next to me. And he developed these tests, and we got to be friends. His name's Marc. He was born the same day I was. It's fun. But he does an independent consultation with me for every one of these. I mean, he's done 10,000 of them. I can't anywhere be close to feeling like I could do it as well as he does. And initially, I just had him tell me what to do. I got smart after a while. Hi there.
Hi.
And now, please just come sit down. Hi, Chris. You just got here just to see yourself.
Really?
That you're going to be on here. Is that okay with you?
That's okay.
Okay, good. So anyhow, it's very valuable. Recently, I'm actually having him over through every part of the test to actually teach me as much as he knows. So it takes a longer time. It's expensive, but it's worth every second of it. So exercise. People talk about, is it good to exercise for osteoporosis? And like we talked about, stretching, and here's what we talk about. It's not the biggest study I've ever seen, but it's definitive. And it's fascinating how it works. Fascinating. This is one of my favorite. Anyway, the interesting thing is they want you to walk sideways. I thought that would be interesting.
You see people walk on their dogs doing that?
There you go. Walk sideways on your dog. Aging in bone. I am a real fan of anybody telling me about, well, I'm just getting old, doc.
Right.
Okay? There's no correlation. There's degenerative change. And I usually set people up, I apologize. But they go, my left knee really hurts. I'm just getting old, doc. And I go, yeah, okay. Do you skip when you walk? And now they know it's coming, but they don't know what's coming. And they no, I'm fine. And so you walk a lot? Yeah, I do, but it hurts every time, that left knee. And I go, oh, how old's your left knee? Well, as old as I am. I said, well, now how old's your right knee? Okay, so it disabuses the idea. There's specific types of collagen that are necessary as we get older. It's called biocell collagen. Since we now have the benefit of the human genome, there's a gene SNP. It's called S1R1. And for some damn reason, when you get older, it activates, which makes collagen molecules not absorbed as properly. Well, hell, 80% of your body's protein is collagen. I think we're getting mined here. So what they did in Japan is they developed a collagen molecule that was smaller, and it bypasses the adverse effects of S1R1. Japanese are smart guys, they really are. The control of muscles is just from the fact that if it creates stability in the bone doesn't have to create as much strength, so it's better. So if you need to look like that, I put that in there for you, just so you know. I thought this would be fun. This is a case history. That guy, he's named Clive. What do you know about him? What do you see?
That was your sign.
Yeah, that's exactly what he has. He has what's called DISH. And I love acronyms. It used to be called idiopathic spondylosis. Okay, that means that every part of your spine fuses together. Now, he's a wonderful guy. He's a mathematician. He's a PhD in math. And sometimes we and him have conversations. But he's been a patient for 3 years now. And you see the picture on the left? She's not holding his head up. That's the best he can do.
Wow.
Okay, and you see the picture subsequently? Well, I just looked at him last week. He can put his head on the table. I didn't get a picture of it, damn it, but I'll put it up on here.
How many years is last
3.
week? Oh, it's still
Last
third
year.
year.
His anniversary's in March. So 3 years and whatever, 2 months. But anyhow, this story here, this girl I saw since she was 9 years old, okay, and she was a runner. Really, really nice girl. I really liked her. And the problem is when she started to run, she started to lose a little weight. She lost her period because she was running like marathons, losing her weight. And she started to really have problems with her body image. She thought she was fat. So she started running more, okay? And she was like 21 when she was running more. I hadn't seen her in 6 months because she lives in Michigan. And when she came to see me, it was like, I was horrified, scared. When she took off her shirt, the skin was actually like loose. It was frightening. It took me 3 years to get her to the point where she was back in weight, and they were really trying to call her anorexic, and I wouldn't let them. And fortunately, her parents were really on my side because of the medication they wanted to put her on would have killed her. But anyway, the good part is.
But mentally, she was anorexic. If she thought her body image was.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, but basically the interesting part, I've never seen this before, but this is called, we found a case of what's called physiological anorexia. Her body was allergic to food. Okay? Yeah.
Oh, weird.
So it took me about a year to get her to even eat a meal. And at this point, she was getting pretty desperate. And I said, sorry, I can't imagine what it's like to run a marathon. And the last 5 miles, it must be hell. God, sorry. Whatever it takes for you to finish is what you need right now. So she did.
Wow.
And there's a good ending for this. A year later, she ran the Boston Marathon, and she came in 300th. I had a picture of her crossing the finish line, I couldn't find it. Sorry. Anyway, I apologize for that, but I just do that, I'm afraid. It's a genetic defect, I guess.
No, it's normal.
What I did was, when people talk about what nutrition you should use for bones getting better, I put a bunch of them on here, and I did it purposely. Because if you read the book that says, you need to take this if you have this, well, hell, how do you know what you're not supposed to take? That's where NRT, the nutritional response testing, comes in. Because I know about these things, and we check them all, okay? So there's vitamin D and specific types of C, and specific types of E, and specific types of B and multivitamins. And there's different calciums, as you can see. Water, you can't neglect the fact that you need water. Okay, and we're now into this, we need K2 when we have vitamin E or D. And I don't know that you do. I don't even know that you need vitamin D. They talk about it. I was lucky enough that I bought a Apple computer, and they have this thing called iUniversity, and you can tap into courses that are going on right now, or have been recorded. And there was one that said, join in with the top experts, scientific experts around the world on vitamin D. I said, well, that would be interesting. So I listened to it for an hour and a half, and then I shut it off, and then I was 100% certain we had no idea what the hell that stuff does. Because everybody wanted to claim it as their own. Well, it's good for cancer, and it's good for bones, and it's good for hormones, and so I don't think they knew what it was good for. One of the things I thought was interesting is I want to know how come vitamin D levels are so low.
Because we all wear sunscreen.
But it's because you wear sunscreen.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Now, we didn't used to do
right?
that.
It's right there. It was 30% in 1950. It's 70% by 2050. And they say that basically the bottom line is we're paranoid for the sun. All right. So if the sun doesn't touch the skin, the oils on the skin, it doesn't convert to vitamin D. Does anybody know what that oil is on the skin?
Cholesterol?
Yeah, it's cholesterol. So we hate cholesterol and we hate the sun. How the heck are we going to have anything that's vitamin D? Make sense? Okay. And melanoma probability increases 2 times if you have 5 sunburns or more. And the concept of the discussion about sunburn is fascinating, but it would take us long to discuss is what we actually talked about to this point, and it has nothing to do with the sun. It's actually an essential amino acid. It's amazing. Okay, why are so many people, obese people have problems with it, okay? People that have liver dysfunction will have problems with it. People that drink soft drinks will have problems with it. Okay, the food doesn't have any in it, so how the heck are we going to get it? Okay, and there's not a nutritional source because why do we get it from the sun? That's not a coincidence. You get it? Fatty meats used to have it, they don't anymore. Here's some more of the products that actually are necessary. 2 of the products up there are digestive. And they're all fatty acids. Okay, and that's a multivitamin. It tastes terrible though. Okay, I had to add this paper because I had to add this slide. It has nothing to do with what we're talking about, but I thought it was amazing. It was about runners using fat as an energy source rather than sugar. Okay, and this guy, and that's his name there. I couldn't pronounce it. Bachi I got, but he swears by using the stomach juice of giant hornets to be able to get him to run a marathon. He's good at it, but there was only one liability: that 30 to 40 people in Japan die every year from doing it.
She inject it or swallow?
Swallow? Oh yeah, you got to swallow it. Good, Jeannie's not here, she'd shoot me. This is the end of this presentation, but what I'd like to do is I didn't recognize that having children and doing what I do, alternative healthcare, would end up being an experiment. But there's my children, and what happened was that my wife took it very seriously to take care of herself, so she knew how to. And that's Lindsay, and that's my little one on my left, and the center one is Sarah there. And then Lindsay, with a friend of hers, noticed the blonde hair. That's Morgan. She worked for me for a while. But she took care of herself just great. And her pregnancy and the delivery were amazing. And there's my grandson. And I want you to notice that my children, there's a lot of light in their eye, man, but this kid's beaming. Well, Sarah, my eldest, she lived in Portland at the time when she was pregnant, and she really knew what, didn't want me involved in this because she knew what I was going to do. I'd drive her crazy. So, but she was very, very aware of how to take care of herself and the baby. So when I went out to see him, I looked at those eyes, and I went, wow, she's done perfect. The demeanor of children and the clarity of their skin is the two criteria I use for health of a child. And and my daughter, which is on the right there, she didn't have an ounce of fluid on her that should not have been there. So I know she ate perfectly. And there's my younger daughter, and that's Yorma. That's my grandkid. I don't know where they got Yorma from. And there's Jeannie. And you remember the blonde? Well, she got married. She's been a friend of my younger daughter since they were 2. So we've grown up. She lived with me for a year and a half. Anyway, Jeannie on the left there, she's in one of those carts because this isn't, she rode behind me on a bicycle and she said I cut her off. I don't know I did. But she broke her hip in 2 places. And she was supposed to be in a wheelchair for 3 months to 4 months. In 6 weeks, that's a picture of her on the right.
Wow.
So she had tough bones. And there's at a costume party. You ready for this? God, you're supposed to be here. I'll take care of it. I have to show you this. I just think it's exemplary. Where to go? There it is. I was going to say it better be here. You guys like Steve Martin? Good.
This content is currently unavailable.
No.
Things get taken off YouTube occasionally.
I'm not happy about that. Oh, we've got to show you this. Okay. If you'll give me 2 minutes after we're done, I got to show you this thing. Because the contrast is actually profound and would have done much better if anyway. This is a TV commercial
to relax with friends and
of
family.
a drug.
But even here, there is no escaping it. It's called moderate to severe chronic plaque psoriasis. Once again, I had to deal with these embarrassing, flaky, painful red patches. It was time for a serious talk with my dermatologist. This time, he prescribed Humira. It fights my moderate to severe plaque psoriasis. It works inside my body to help clear the surface of my skin.
What's wrong?
In fact, in clinical trials, most adults saw 75% skin clearance, and the majority of people were clear or almost clear in just 4 months. And the makers of Humira offer financial assistance for those patients who qualify.
Humira can lower your ability to fight infections, including tuberculosis. Serious, sometimes fatal events can occur, such as infections, lymphoma, or other types of cancer. Blood, liver, and nervous system problems. Serious
Liver and nervous system problems. That's good stuff.
Failure. Before starting Humira, the doctor should test you for TB.
You get the point. Hold on a minute. I got to do a little administrative stuff here. Come on. Stop.
Yeah, that was Donald Trump who this.
It wasn't that I was trying to play. If you notice on this one here,
Found out that much to my dismay that I have hyperthyroiditis. Added to that, later on I found out that I have Graves' disease. And I, more than anything else, didn't want to be taking chemicals. I'm averse to that.
Can you hear it?
And I phoned Dr. Marc from a referral from a friend at church, and he has been a complete blessing. I didn't think there was any hope for me, but I've been working with Dr. Marc since January of 2017. It's almost a year now, and I have seen marked improvement. I used to shake like crazy. I was very anxious. Sexual appetite was not there. I couldn't sleep. But since I've been taking my supplements that Dr. Marc has recommended, and more than anything else in the world, the cutting out of sugar, processed sugar, that's a miracle. I feel stronger. I feel younger. And I am eternally grateful to Dr. Marc.
Isn't that fun?
For doing that.
Pardon me?
I'm just remembering when I did that. Okay.
Yeah, I remember. That's why I asked you before. I wasn't going to show it.
Oh, okay.
It's Chris, just in case you were wondering.
Yeah.
Her hair changes color almost weekly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so the bottom line is that, Chris, you don't mind if I talk about you a little?
No.
When Chris came to see me, the medical prognosis and diagnosis was pretty dire. Graves' disease is a hyperactive thyroid. It's a very serious condition. And their solution was, well, if the thyroid's working too quickly, what we really need to do is remove it. Fortunately, Chris was smart enough to go, what are you guys, nuts? I'm not doing that. I need my thyroid. So, you remember the taking charge of your health? She didn't even need me to get to that point. But I want everybody to get to that point. They take out about 60,000 of them a year. And the end result is they get something called thyroid storm. Now you get the idea of storm? Storms are kind of stormy. So your hormones go up and down, and you're like a raving lunatic for about 2 weeks. They neglect to tell you that when they do it, though. So we strive to be number one. I don't want people ever to do that. I want them to do exactly what Chris did and go, what are you guys, nuts? Okay, because she's still here. And she shared some things with me when she was going through this that political decorum just won't let me say, but I'll tell you, it was just to make me, you know what I'm talking about too. It was hysterical. So it seems a little cheesy to me, and I wasn't sure how I was going to do this, but I don't want people to be in that situation anymore. So asking for your help means that you're going to be around a lot more people than I am, you know, in relationships that are having difficulties. And I just want them to think that there's a better way. Okay? And this is one of my favorite. This is how I consider life should be. You should burn bright the whole time. When you get to the end, you just flicker out. In this country, 90% of the money we spend on health care is spent in the last year of our life. It's called heroic health care. That's not the time. You know, I have some stories that are really kind of wonderful about this, and I'll share them with you if you like. But I appreciate you taking the time to be here, and we're done. I'm going to find that video for you. Jeannie made some desserts for you guys that are made from no sugar, and I want you all, particularly the cake. I want you to tell me what the cake is made out of, okay?